So here we are, another week on the Guest Book podcast. And as promised, I have my first guest. So welcome, Matt Amison. How are you, my old friend?
I am good, thank you very much.
Oh, great. So for those people who don't know, myself and Matt go way back. God, I don't even know how long. It's probably last time we spoke was probably graduation in 2014. So that's
Yeah,
nearly 10 years ago.
which is crazy.
Where did that time go? And our lives have changed so much in that period of time. But Matt and I, we were on the same course together. So we did media film production at Staff's Uni, and we were in the same year. And if there's one thing I can say about Matt is when it comes to telling stories and being a really cool, genuine guy, he's it.
Oh, well, thank you very much. That's very nice.
And I want to say, genuinely, I have 3 Matts in my life. You know both of those Matts because we went to uni together with them. It was Matt Campbell, Matt Warren, and yourself. And all 3 Matts have had an impact on my life. And even to this day, when I think back to uni, you're one of the people that I think fondly of.
Oh,
So, and also like the way that you create and tell stories, even from university, whether that be through making people laugh and smile or, get really emotional and cry, you really have that, what's that word? You have that gift to do that. And it's no surprise to me that A, you're in the industry that you're in now, and B, that your company is called what it's called. So would you like to introduce what your company is called and what you do?
yeah. Well, that was very, very kind intro. Thank you very much. You've
Oh, you're
made me feel
welcome.
very humbled there. Thank you very much. Yeah, so my name is Matt, as you've already said, and my company is called Here's a Little Story, which essentially started with I used to do keepsake videos of babies, like babies' first year,
Mhm.
and I used to introduce them with Here's a Little Story about. And then that developed into doing my best mate's wedding for him, which went really well. And then luckily that became another 2 weddings and then another 3 weddings. And then I've just now been doing it for 6 years. So yeah, it's kind of like an
Wow.
umbrella name about me being able to tell a multitude of different people's stories.
And I like how that's kind of naturally progressed from obviously being a parent and having that journey. I mean, you're a parent yourself, so having that keepsake for your children is beautiful, but also moving into weddings where having a keepsake and looking back on it is equally as beautiful as well. So I like that natural progression that you went
Yep.
through with your business.
Yeah, and I always say to people, I feel really lucky that um do you know when you dig out the old VHSs and you've got like a video of yourselves when you're little,
Mm.
on holidays or at celebrations? I just like the fact that in like 10, 20 years time, it's going to be my content that people are going to be digging out of their boxes and watching, like, and they're going to get to see themselves when they were younger. And they're just going to be able to watch it back, and they've got it forever, which is just, it's just an amazing thing to be able to say I get to do.
That's a beautiful way of looking at it as well. Because people just think, oh, you made a video, that's the guy's job. But no, you want to go, actually, no, I'm creating something. So further down the line, their kids and their kids' can look back and cherish that moment that they wasn't there for. It's a
Yeah.
really lovely way of looking at it. Now, you've got your own little story. As I said, we met at university, but
Yep.
you also had a very big thing happen to you at university. You met your beautiful wife, Rachel, there.
I did.
When was that? Was that in our second year or third year at university?
So she's from my hometown, but I met her during university time, and it was between second and third year, like the summer in between.
Oh.
So I went from wanting to spend every every moment I could at uni to third year just never being at uni because I just wanted to be at home
Mm.
with her.
So did you know her prior to then?
I knew of her and she knew of me. We first met at a house party. Um, she got really drunk and she fell down a staircase.
Oh,
And I always knew her as that girl who fell down a staircase drunk. But we didn't know each other personally, no, until that summer.
oh wow. And then your life changed forever.
It did, yeah. I'm very, very lucky.
Was it an immediate like I want to marry this woman, or was it let's just see where it goes and you've kind of stumbled into this amazing life?
I'm very sort of quick to fall for people because I'm very sentimental. And I think although Rach has admitted that she kind of fell for me quickly as well. In the beginning, she was the person who was playing it cool, and I was just wanted to see her all the time. So it was pretty quick for me. We went on our first holiday, and I remember saying like a couple of months in, just like a weekend break, and I remember thinking like at that point, like she's gonna be the one I marry.
Oh, wow.
But I don't know when she thought that back.
You never asked her?
No.
No. She'd be like, oh, I don't know. Oh, when can I say that?
Yeah.
No,
Still
that's
thinking
really
about
sweet.
it.
Do you ever think back to those times and how long ago that was and the things that you've been through and where you're at now?
Yeah, but we always reflect on it. I mean, we've got going back to the video side of things. I always used to make videos of holidays. We've been backpacking a few times, our honeymoon, things like that. And we always, every now and then, we sit there and just watch them all, and like one after the other. And it kind of makes us realize how much we've done and been through. Yeah, it's crazy. It's been ages.
And it's great that she's so supportive as well. That's one thing that, I don't know Rachel personally, but I can see from the work that you've done and the things that you've been through that in order to do that, you need someone supportive on your side.
Yeah, 100%. And when I actually started doing the wedding videos, actually, to be honest, she used to do them with me. She used to co-shoot. She's got absolutely no background in camera work. She just used to come as like B-roll. I used to give her the B-roll job. But I took her to one wedding and she smashed it. So I was like, well, you can just come to all of them. But obviously she hadn't done it for a few years because of COVID. And then obviously we've now got our little boy, so she doesn't come out with me anymore. But it kind of started with us both, which was quite nice as well.
That's really nice to go, oh, we go to your little boy. Mummy and daddy started this business. That's
Yeah.
really cute.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you, I mean, if it seems a personal question or you don't want to talk about it, fair enough. But I personally, this week on Thursday, it's a year since my dad passed away. And I know that your own dad passed away as well. And
Yeah.
he wasn't present at your wedding. Did he, I mean, my memory is a bit hazy here. Was he around when you proposed to Rachel? Or was
It
it
was
before that?
the year before, but he was around for a fair amount of years whilst I was with Rach, and we'd already talked about backpacking, and then I was talking about after we'd backpacked, I was probably going to settle down. He knew she was going to be my wife, and I said that at my wedding. Actually, I did a toast to him, and I said to everyone, he knew full well that I was never going to be with anyone else. So therefore, I always say like he did meet my wife. She just wasn't my wife at the time.
I remember thinking this myself. Like myself and Jake have been engaged 5 years now, and you kind of take for granted that your parents are always going to be there for your wedding day. You don't ever think that they're not going to. So when you're faced with that challenge and you're faced with the magnitude and the grief of that, it not only impacts you, but it impacts the other people that are there because there's that huge hole on your wedding day.
Mm-hmm.
Like not just obviously yourself, but your mum and your siblings as well. So did you do anything? I mean, I know you did a speech at your wedding. Was there anything there on your big day to honor your dad?
Yeah, so obviously I incorporated my sort of love for video, and what I did was I created like a memory table. But people often do it. They put out like a table, and they put pictures in photo frames of people who are no longer there. But then at that point in our life, he was kind of like the most poignant person that should have been there for me. So he kind of had pride of place on that table. And instead of a picture, I put like a TV screen, like a little monitor, and I made a montage of all our old VHS footage that we had of him, and I just looped that all day, and it was just playing in the background, which was quite nice. And people were stopping. It was like a conversation piece. People who knew him were stopping. People who didn't know him were stopping. It was just nice because it kind of gave another element to it, like he was moving around on screen, so it kind of like gave a bit more of a realistic, like felt like he was a bit more there. That's what we did, which was nice. And then I put a bottle of he loves ale, so I put a bottle of like an empty bottle of ale out, and I put a note next to it saying like chink it, so people were going past like chinking the bottle
Oh,
for
that's lovely.
which was quite nice. So yeah, I went full soppy over it because it was just a big thing for me.
It's got to have been hard, him not being there, and I can understand that from not only your own point of view as obviously you're going to have father of the groom, and that impact, but it's nice to have that nod to him and his presence very much being felt there and doing those things for him. It's a big thing. It's something that I've heavily thought about myself. I've not wanted to think about getting married or the process of being married for the past year, even though I'm doing this.
Yep.
My own wedding is kind of at the back of my mind because I'm like, I don't want to think about that because it's too raw. It's still really raw. So I wanted to touch upon that with you because I've not spoken to you about it, and I know it was a very hard time for both yourself and your whole family, really. And I know a lot of people will be doing the same, going through the same situation. As I said, we take it for granted that they're going to be there. And it's not until other people have gone through it that you can go, actually, it is hard, but we can do things to honour them on our big day.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that there are significant times in the day where it will hit you more than others. Obviously, for yourself, it will be walking down the aisle. And then obviously you have the family photos. But I've always tried to, so I don't ever sort of remember the bad dates in terms of losing my dad. I only ever celebrate sort of his birthday, Christmas, and on the wedding day, it was just celebrating him. So although it was I tried to take moments out of the day to go and sort of be there in my thoughts, just me and him. But then I also just tried to celebrate him as much as I could. So in the speech, we all raised and had a glass of ale for him, spoke about him, and then everyone just wanted to speak to me naturally about him because of the video, and I just tried to embrace that, so that in a way he was a big part of the day still.
That's beautiful. I love that. Amazing. I remember looking back at your wedding video, actually. So there was a time when I was liking all your stuff.
Yeah.
And it was not, I was obsessed with Matt, but it was like, you're doing well. I love this for you. And I genuinely, when I watched your wedding video you put on Facebook, I was crying. And I remember people going, "What are you crying at?" And I was like, weddings make me emotional anyway. But it was just like, I don't know. It's just a beautiful moment. And I'm glad that that's happened for you and that you're happy and you're in love and you got married. And your wedding photos are beautiful, by the way.
Thank
Rachel
you.
looks stunning.
Yeah, she does.
Stunning. That picture, where did you get married? Because it had that round archway.
Yeah, so
walkway.
we got married at a place called Blackwell Grange, which is out towards Stratford. And we wanted a venue that was an all-in-one. But also when we went to look at it, there was what I call it the Hobbit store. And because I'm obsessed with Lord of the Rings, it just kind of sold it to me. And I think there's a few other venues now that offer them as just like a little picturesque piece, but at the time it was one of the only ones that we found. So yeah, we got married there, and it was, the photographer did a really nice photo in front of that where he flash gunned the circular door, so it looks like we're in like a big halo.
That's beautiful. Looks really, really cool. Really stylistic as well. I know we went straight to the wedding there, but I really want to know, if you want to talk about it, your proposal. So like, I know I mentioned your dad because I didn't know if he was around at the time, when you proposed, but obviously it was before. He passed away before you proposed. Did you have a big plan? Was you nervous? Like, did it go to plan?
It went to plan because I kept it quite controlled. Rach is kind of, wouldn't say she's not a stereo. I don't know. I don't want to like generalize, but she says it herself. She's not sort of like, she doesn't like public shows of affection. She doesn't like attention being on her. And she's always told me since day one that if I ever did it, she didn't want like a big public show, which is kind of like me as well. I'd have hated that back. So based on stories that I'd had in the past from my sister and mixed with what Rach wanted, I kind of kept it simple because I knew that when something's a secret, typically people don't play ball. So my sister, when she got proposed to, my brother-in-law took her to their first spot that they ever walked together. And the idea was to get out the car and do it on this canal bridge. But it was drizzling a bit and she wouldn't get out of the car. And he had to have like a big go at her because she wouldn't get out of the car. And it didn't ruin the moment, but it made the moment like harder than it should have been. So based on that, as well as what Rach had asked for, I kind of did it. We were staying in Cornwall in my auntie's house, but we were there on our own. And I just did something really, like, it was just really sloppy, really. It's probably not as grand as most people's, but I made like a video montage of our relationship. So clips from trips that we'd had and funny videos that we always remember. And I made her press play on it while she was getting ready for this meal that we were going for. And then I snuck downstairs during the whole video and set up this display, which was like a cork board saying, "Will you marry me?" on it. Put out some champagne and some chocolates and candles and things like that. And then at the end of the video, it just said like, "This has just been a distraction. Bring the laptop with you and come and find me." And it was our song that was playing at the end. So she brought the music with her, walked into the lounge, and then obviously I was there on one knee.
Oh, wow. That's actually really sweet.
It sounds sweet, but I thought, well, I mean, Rach cried, and obviously I was happy with it, and Rach was happy with it. But compared to other people's stories, it is quite sort of not as grand as some other people's stories, but it was kind of like really good for us.
It's fitting for who you are, and obviously you've respected her wishes, because I would have hated any kind of massive public
Yeah,
proposal, because I would have felt like I have to say yes. Like,
yeah,
not that I didn't want to say yes, but it was just
no.
that, like, all the eyes on you.
Yeah. There's always that fear, isn't there, that are they just saying yes because I always think that when I see it on TV, do you know, people do it live on TV.
Yeah.
I always think, I wonder if they're just saying yes because it would be awkward if they said no right now.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of people on TikTok doing fake proposals so they get a free dessert in a restaurant, or or tickets to something. Someone did
Wow.
one at Harry Styles concert, and I'm like, you obviously want VIP tickets, so you
Yeah.
proposed, and I'm like, it just ruins the moment, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I actually could imagine it in my head. That was a really sweet proposal for sure.
My ideal would have been, we went to a place called Lewinick Lodge in Cornwall, and it's kind of like our place when we go to Cornwall. And there's a really nice headland walk that overlooks the sea. And my ideal would have been to have gone for a meal and then walked her across the headland. But then going back to my sister's story, I thought there's absolutely no way she's walking along a headland in heels. And it was windy. I just thought it's just not going to happen. So that's what I proposed first, and then we went for the meal. And then I explained that to her, and she admitted, she was like, "Yeah, I wouldn't have walked along there in the heels."
A good judge of what not to do there, Matt.
Yep.
Because she would have been like, "Come on, walk," and it would just
Need
ruined
to.
it. Yeah. So when it came to planning your wedding, was you active in planning it, or did you let Rach take the wheel, or did you have anything in mind that you'd really like on your big day?
My big things were a venue that had everything there, because from my experience of video and weddings, a lot of time can be wasted just going to and from different parts of the day. Um, it's not always the case, but so I wanted everything to be quite tight knit. And then I just wanted to have some sort of big celebration of my dad. And those were my only sort of big, like, I want them. Everything else was sort of what Rach wanted. Obviously we both wanted it, but it was kind of her lead.
Mhm.
I just always wanted to be a groom that knew what was going on. So I have a lot of weddings where I turn up and they literally have no clue that what the wedding looks like, color schemes or anything. They've literally been told what suit to wear, and they're happy being that groom. But everyone always takes the mick out of them and just says like they've literally just got changed and turned up. And I always said to Rach, like, you can pick color schemes, themes, everything. I just kind of want like a nod as well. I just want to know what's going on so that when I turn up on the day, I'm clued up on it. And we ended up doing quite a lot together. There was a lot of sticking and cutting of globes and things that we made, and I was doing all the legwork there with her. But it was very much Rachel's vision. Um, so yeah, it's kind of like a mixed bag, but mainly her.
Mhm. But obviously you go through like maybe food choices, song choices, because I know music's really big for you,
Yep,
and important for you. Um, you sang at your wedding, didn't you?
I did. Yeah, I did.
That was a
Painting
big
this really soppy picture of myself, aren't I? But that's who I am.
No, it's great. I like um I'd love to be able to have those talents and sing, but I don't know if I could on my big day. But you're used to, I mean, it was only friends and family, obviously, so they know that you sing anyway.
I've done it at a few events in family, like family related events, in my life, and so I think everyone expected me to do it. And I just said to we knew the acoustic singer quite well because she'd been at a friend's wedding a few years before, and we recommend her all the time. And then I just said to her beforehand, like, if I was to just do one song, can you help me make that happen? And then on the day, I nearly bottled it. And my mate just said, like, I think you'll regret not doing it more than you will just like doing it and maybe not sounding the best. So I was just like, yeah, you're right. So I just did one song. I did Perfect by Ed Sheeran, but I changed it to You Look Perfect Today,
Oh, that's
which was
beautiful.
quite um
It's like you get stuck in your own head though, don't you? Because you have a vision of what, or you want to do something. Bit
yep.
like this podcast, for instance. So you reached out to me back in November, December last year, and you were like, I'd really love to be a guest on your podcast. And then I got in my own way, and I got like, I bottled it for a bit. And then I was like, no, let's do this, kick myself up the bum. And here we are, finally doing this. So I can imagine in the same, I mean, probably a lot more pressure on your wedding day, but I really want to do that. But when the day comes, you're like, oh, shall I do it? Shall I not? I'm glad that you
Yeah.
did it though.
I just get worried that, like, for me, it's not like, when you go to, I don't know if you've ever been to like a karaoke place and most people sing and they're doing silly songs, and then you always
Mm,
get that one person who stands up and they know they're great and they just kind of they just take it a bit too far, like they're treating it like it's the Royal Albert Hall or something. And everyone loves what they're doing, but they're also just thinking, all right, just like, yeah, like I've got to go on next, and I'm not as good as you.
yeah.
I've always worried that people see it as like more of like a, I don't know, like an ego thing, and it's not. Like, I don't sing at places for because I think I'm great. I just enjoy singing, and I like to do it, especially when it's like significant, like the wedding. I just thought it was like a nice little uh toast to Rach. And I don't think, yeah, it's just like a nice gesture, I
Did
thought, and
she
it went down really well.
did she know that you all had a feeling that you would do that, or was that a total surprise for Rach?
I think it was a mix. I think she thought I would do it. Everyone expected me to do it in the evening. I think her dad said in his speech that I was going to mention that you're probably going to sing tonight, but you've already sang. And he said, but so I think she was kind of expecting me to maybe do something, but she didn't know for sure. But yeah, it went down really well. But like you say, that you try and talk yourself out of it, don't you? Thinking no one's going to want to listen to that, or I'm not going to be very good. And then actually, the reality is, if you just do things in life, most people champion you, don't they? And most people just want you to. They're just enjoying what you're doing, really.
And look at that kind of memory you've made right
Yeah,
there. That's really cool. You've got loads of stories
I do.
and loads, and I love listening to those stories. But you messaged me yesterday going on about, obviously you've got a unique point of view now, because not only are you married, but you're also in the industry because you're a wedding supplier, you're a videographer.
Yep.
What tips or tricks or advice would you give to my listeners on creating their own wedding day? Like, what can they look out for, or what can they do to make their planning journey easier?
So my biggest things that I always say, there's a couple. The biggest things that I always try and say to couples when I have my pre-wedding meeting, is time your day at a pace that you would like to be at. A lot of people fall under the trap of booking everything during the lulls, as they call them. They fill them with loads of things, which is great on the day, and it's great for me because visually I've got loads of stuff to film. But I think when you mix potentially traveling from a church to a venue, and then you've got to then go off and have your photographs done with your photographer. If you've got all these things going on in the background, sometimes you don't actually get a chance to stand and talk to your guests. And I get a lot of couples at the end of the day that stand there and they're just like, I don't feel like I've stopped. I haven't said hello to anybody, and I haven't even seen half the stuff that I've paid for. So I was just trying, when they ask me, do you think we've got enough there? I was just saying, yeah, I think you've got plenty. Just trying, like, obviously a magician's quite nice, things like that, and crazy golf, I see it quite a lot, things that are in the background. But I always just say to people, take off like a nice amount and don't go crazy, because not only will you save your money, but you'll also have time to actually enjoy things. Um, that's my biggest tip. And I always just say to people, if they can get a venue that's all in one, that's great as well. When they have prep at the same place as the ceremony and as the reception, it's great as well, because it just means you've got more time being there instead of in transit. Another tip I always say to people from a photography and videography point of view is just kind of visualize what the photographs are going to look like whilst you're booking the venue. So when we booked ours, I booked a place that had lots of room around the key areas like the ceremony, and a lot of light, airy spaces, because it's just a dream for photographers and videographers. They can make it work wherever they are, but you can be more casual if there's already nice amounts of lights in there, instead of having to use your flash in the middle of the ceremony.
I think people think they need to fill every minute of the day so their guests don't get bored.
Yeah.
And I can see why. But as you said, like, you're just filling space and wasting money and not enjoying that time.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the time guests, when they've come from all different areas of the country and sometimes from abroad, they haven't seen each other for a few months, maybe a few years. They just want time to stand and drink and chat. And if they're being ushered here, there, and everywhere to do the next thing, so if there's like a bouquet toss, followed by confetti tunnel, followed by group photographs, and then next thing they know, they're having to be sat down for their meal. No one's actually had a chance to sit and talk to each other. So sometimes when people fear there's going to be a lull, like that lull's quite welcomed in a lot of weddings that I see. They actually quite like just sitting there and having a drink.
Because
Um,
I can imagine, well, my sister got married in 2019 as well. So she had actual nice pockets of time where we could interact and we could talk and we could like process what just happened. But it's literally full on. As soon as you walk, or as soon as your guests arrive, well, as soon as you get to the venue yourself, really, it's all full on
yeah.
throughout the day. So did you and Rach spend or take some time in the day for just the two of you as well?
Yeah, so we a lot of the time they'll tell you that your only sort of time alone is when you're having your photographs done, the two of you. Um, so we, after our ceremony, we were put in this room, like a holding room, for about 5-10 minutes.
Holding room. Sounds like you're in prison.
Yeah, whilst everyone was going off to the reception part, But that was quite nice because we had a chance to. That was the first time we'd properly spoken that day, other than during the ceremony. So we had like a couple of drinks and just talked about how it had gone so far. Um, but then obviously when we were led off for our photographs, it was quite nice as well because it's just normally you two and the photographer, videographer, and you're just having a laugh. You're talking about how it's been. Um, and yeah, it's important because it kind of resets your social batteries, but it also gives you a chance to, um, I don't know, just reflect on how it's gone so far without the whole day um, just going by in a blur, which it does, like you say, it's just so full on.
Yeah, I can imagine. I know I'm preparing myself for that very thing, that it's just going to go within a blink of an eye.
Yeah.
Um, Obviously you've got your expertise is in videography and obviously, photography. What advice would you give to my listeners if they feel conscious on film or on video, on video or in photos, or you'll get people looking at you, and after a while you'll kind of blend in
Yep.
because that's what you do. Um, what can you say to them to, like, maybe not look at me, or can they interact with you? Or obviously it's your own individual style, but what would you say to them and their guests about having photographer and videographer on the day?
So it is like you say, it's all about style, and I think when you're looking through photographers and videographers, there's so many out there, and there's so many doing such an amazing job. Um, but styles can differ so much, and I think if you look at the nature of their photographs, if all their photographs are people looking straight down the lens, then there's an element of they've staged a lot of that, and with staging photographs, it comes a lot of time out your day, and also time where the cameras are right in your face. Whereas if they all seem a bit more candid and from a distance, then that photographer is a bit more fly on the wall. Um, and so a lot of the time, I always get complimented on the fact that people don't realize I'm there because I don't stage any part of my day when I'm doing the job because I don't think you get people's natural reactions when they, like you say, they know there's a camera in their face. So I always, if you can look at someone who's got that style, maybe quiz them and say, are you more candid or are you more um, portrait? Like in terms of like, do you set up portraits, set up
Mm.
shots? Um, and then just explain to them when you're booking them, this is what I want. If you want that sort of studio experience, then tell them. If you want it to be, a lot of couples will ask photographers that I work with, I want 5 family photographs, and then for the rest of the day, I want to just be taken as I am. Um, and those are the ones that you will not feel self-conscious on because that you just won't know they're there. The photographers will just roam around, and the videographer will roam around. And at the end of the day, you might walk away thinking, well, they've probably got nothing of me because I didn't even see them. But then when you hit with all the content, you're like, oh wow, like yeah, there's me laughing genuinely. There's my mom who hates being on camera, looking genuine as well. Um, yeah, I come across quite a few guests that, especially your older generations, they don't like cameras at all, and I'm obviously quite conscious because I'll get a couple say get lots of footage of my nan, but then when I point the camera at the nan, she frowns at me or scowls at me. So I kind of sit back and go on a longer lens, and I'll always make sure I bag 1 or 2 great shots of them just interacting with guests somewhere else, and they don't have a clue that I'm filming them. And then in the footage, in the final video, it always looks lovely because not only are they in it, but they're in it not scowling. They're just enjoying themselves.
That's really nice. I want that kind of approach for my own wedding, like having that from a distance, you know, candid shots. My sister had the same at her wedding, but she didn't have a video. And I think that's one regret she has. She didn't, in her head, she's like, I don't want to pay that amount for a videographer. And I said, later down the line, Siobhan, you will regret that. But it's nice to see, a moving image or hear a person,
Yeah,
or, there might be moments where you were not present for that you can then see on the video.
Yeah, and there is a lot of that in the day. There's a lot that you'll be led off to go and do things, and you'll miss um, moments, or suppliers turn up and then they leave again. Like, you might not even get to see a magician, things like that. So being able to see them on video is great. But also, like you said, it's what separates video from photography is the audio element. So you'll always get so on my sister's wedding, she's got my dad doing his speech, which, going back to earlier, like, because he's not here anymore, like, it's just amazing to turn that on and listen to him talking,
Mm.
which you just wouldn't get with photography. So I always say to people, photography is top of the list for definite, but it's very difficult to sell video without sounding like I'm selling it, because I am a supplier. But it is just one of those things that it sits above most things, in my opinion, because of the fact that once the day is over, you've still got it forever. Whereas most of the things that you pay for on a wedding day, they go with the wedding day, and so it's just so important to invest in it if you can. And I always tell that to people, even if you can't pick me, get someone to video it somewhere, because you'll regret not having one. Purely because it's just a keepsake, isn't it? It's not going anywhere once you've got it.
It's true.
Um,
I mean, even like I was talking earlier about seeing your video on Facebook, that's forever there.
yeah,
So even like we might not get like the whole package that you had from your videographer, like it was your anniversary last month, wasn't it?
yeah,
And it came up on your timeline. So like even though like you reshared it, like it's forever there, and people
yeah.
can look back and go that, oh yeah, I remember that, or what have you. It's just nice little reminders, and I'm highly supportive of anyone in that kind of industry, videography, photography for sure. But I would genuinely say, if you had to sacrifice something on your day, and this is a big thing for me, I would sacrifice the wedding cake because, I was in baking and I was pricing up wedding cakes and I was doing it myself and I was going to sell it. If you're going to spend nearly, well, I would say like £1.50, you can get on a massive cake that you may not even get a slice of, that's just there for show, that may be waste at the end of the day. Sacrifice that cake, invest in your video.
Yeah. And I often say that to people. I often say you should go into a wedding and think, what is it that I want to get out of it as the couple? Like, what is it that I want after the day is over with? What is it that I want to look back on and be really glad that I've got? And sometimes, obviously, the cake is an essential part. But like you say, it's kind of it's cut up and it's eaten, and then it's gone. Whereas I went into my wedding planning thinking I want as much memorabilia as possible of that wedding day. And so the video and photos went top of that list for us.
What
Um,
things do you see or hear of, or even on your own wedding day, do you think that people should like? So you have your top priorities on what you want, and then you'll have like maybe the detailing. So a big one at the minute is people not wanting to do favors. Do people really, when you get to a wedding, do they really care that you've got favors? Do they really care about those other little pieces, or can you get away with sacrificing that and then putting it towards your video?
I think most people turn up on a wedding day. I definitely do anyway, and I kind of just take it as it comes. I don't sit there and think, well, where's this and where's that. If I sit down, there's a favor on the table, I might be like, oh, that's pretty cool. But I wouldn't sit down and look for my favor, if you know what I mean. I wouldn't sit down and go, where are the favors? Like, um, I see like a good mix of things, and I see a lot of different weddings with a lot of different approaches, and you can tell which weddings have been done to impress others, and which weddings have been done with the couple in mind. And that can differ. Some people have some really big venues filled with loads of stuff, but there's no real heart to it. It's almost like they've booked it to say we've got it. And I've done ones at village halls where there's just everything's just got so much personality to it, and a lot of energy in it. and it's just because they've stripped back on other things and thought, I'm going to put it into that because that's us. There's no right or wrong way of doing it, but I just think people fall into the trap of buying things needlessly, just to not to show off, but to almost be like just to impress others. And when really it's just about the both of you, isn't it?
Definitely. And that's one approach that when creating the Wedding Planning Collective, I wanted to have people be empowered by creating a wedding that they want and not the expectations of others and what they may want.
Yep.
So ultimately, it's your big day. You're paying out for that big day, and do what you want. You know, if you want a live band, have a live band. If you want a bouncy castle, have a bouncy castle. You'll have your aunt Barbara go, well, you have to have this or you have to have that. It's your day. Do it what you want in your way.
We had a big thing with my mom, well, both our moms, that they were determined that we would have a church wedding because obviously for them it's traditional.
Mm-hmm.
And we're just not church people personally. We're just not. And I know there's a lot of work that has to go into the build up of a wedding if you want a church wedding. And also just personally, I feel like when I sit in a church ceremony, it quickly becomes about the religious aspect as opposed to the couple. So that was one of our biggest things, was we just had people saying it needs to be done like this, it needs to be done like that. And what we ended up doing was we just compromised with a building that looked church-like, and then we whittled it down to what it is that they loved about the church. And the big thing that came from both of them was they just wanted to make sure that Rach had a grand entrance, and obviously a church typically gives you that because you've got the central aisle, which our venue, it ticked that box as well. So we kept it close to what we wanted because it was about us, and we just said that from the off. We're like, well, we're picking what we want, but we did keep them in mind and think, well, okay, well, they are the moms, so let's just try and find a nice compromise, and we found one.
That's good. Did you write your own vows or did you just do the traditional like registrar vows?
We did we did do our own vows. We did the traditional ones, and then we added to them at the end with just kind of what it is we're gonna make sure we do for each other for life. But like funny things that, so Rach was I'm renowned for pranking my mom and making videos on Facebook of my mom.
Yes, you are. Poor
Rach
mum.
wrote in hers that she yeah. Rach wrote in her vows that she's happy to take on the mantle of being pranked for life, as now I'm living with her. It was just nice. I think it just brings that personal aspect. It makes everyone in the room remember that they're there for you too.
That's a really good point. Really is. So I want to wrap this up because I know you've got work to do, and I've got a daughter to go and get in a minute. So do you have any final words at all? Any final tips or advice before we go?
It's obviously it sounds biased, but it's just my biggest tip is to just try and invest into, make sure you've got a great photographer there, whatever style that is, whatever budget it is that you can afford, and make sure you've got video there in some aspects, because it's just when you wake up the next day after your wedding and everything's over with, you just have that thing to look forward to. It feels like the wedding day is carrying on because you know you've got your photos to come, your videos to come, and then once you've had them, you've got them forever. And I only push it so much because I know so many couples that don't do that with video and they just regret it so much. And I always just try and stress that beforehand. It's such an important thing to try and make sure we've got there.
Yeah, I definitely agree. So where can my listeners find you, Matt? Have you got Instagram, Facebook, a website? Where can we go?
I'm on all socials as Here's a Little Story on Facebook and Here's a Little Story video on Instagram. I'm on TikTok, but I'm a bit of a granddad on there, so don't bother looking at that. And then I'm obviously on my website, which is here'salittle.story.co.uk. And yeah, all the information's on there, examples of my work, and contact boxes to get in touch with me.
Have you got different packages, or is it just one package at the minute?
So I have done a few bespoke packages for people, but typically I try and convince them that a full day package is the best way to go. Not for me, but for mainly because some people will say, can I have ceremony and then speeches? But they forget that I'm going to be there in the middle anyway. So I always just say to people, by the time you've had me for that main chunk, you might as well just have the whole day done. So typically I offer a full day package as standard. I don't add prep on for an additional fee. It's just there. And I'm there from prep through to first dance.
That's great. Thank you for that. I will link everything when this podcast goes out. It'll be all on my socials as well. Thank you so much for your time today, Matt. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, no, it's been my pleasure too. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's been a long time, and hopefully I see this podcast going on and on and on, and maybe I'll get to speak to you again.
Yes, please. Yeah, I'd love to come back.
So go and show Matt some love, guys. Go and follow him over on Instagram. Go and check out his website. If you've got any questions at all, I'm sure Matt wouldn't mind you giving him a message. I'm sure he'll get back to you. But for now, that's the end of this week's episode. Matt was my first guest, and it has gone swimmingly. I'm so happy. And from next week, we've got another guest. Woohoo! I'm not going to say who. But yeah, if you've got any questions at all for myself, or you've got any suggestions, or if you want to be a guest on the podcast, head on over to the weddingplanningcollective.com, hit the guest book tab, and there will be a application form. You can fill that out. But for now, I'm going to love you and leave you, and I hope you have a happy week wedding planning.